everyone, and my name is Sue Kelly, and I'm a behavior therapist with Ron Joyce in community education.
And I'm Michelle, and I'm a child life specialist.
And we are going to be talking a little bit about peaceful practices at home. So, mindfulness is simply just being aware of what is happening right now without wishing it was different. So, no room for judgment. So when we talk about mindfulness, we think about, is our mind actually full of stuff? I love this little diagram with all the chaos and stuff that's going on. Or actually, are we being mindful and being present and being aware? So mindfulness involves paying attention to your thoughts and your emotions without judging it or without changing it, and just sort of taking in that sort of present moment. So being aware of your surroundings, being aware of that time with your children, sights, sounds, tastes, textures, just, anything that you're experiencing, just allowing yourself to experience it, including emotions and even different difficult times. Um, not sort of being hard on yourself or judging yourself for feeling even a difficult emotion. It's okay to feel difficult emotions, and you don't have to judge yourself for that. When we practice mindfulness techniques, it actually allows ourselves to kind of settle a little bit, and we naturally sort of quiet ourselves and we quiet our mind, and we just kind of come to a sort of sense of calm and uh, groundedness, if you will. It allows us to sort of find that sort of little vision within ourselves that gives us some insight to things that might be driving us, causing us to react the way that we do, think the things that we do, behave the way that we do. What are some of the patterns? Why do we continue to do the same thing maybe over and over and over again and expect to get different results? It may allow us to find ways that we can maybe shift those patterns into some different ways of living a little bit more mindfully. Oops. Want to go ahead, Michelle?
Yep. Okay. So, going back to the mindfulness piece, this is another great way to explain mindfulness. I think we're in such a busy life that we're not in the moment. How many meals have you missed? Have you sat and watched the sunset, or and you've missed it because then you start talking about things and it's gone, right? So it's about being in the moment. We tend to focus what happened before or what's going to be happening. So trying to stay in the moment, enjoy the moment, and like Sue said, not judging the thoughts coming in, allowing them to be, and sometimes just enjoying that little thing that's going on, right? So when noticing what's going on right now, it helps you be fully aware in your lives and your experiences, and it's noticing the little things on an ordinary day and allowing ourselves just to be, especially when things are a little bit harder. It's the little things that we can focus on, because we can easily forget the nice things, just a sunset, that it's warm outside, that we had a sleep in, just those little things sometimes can really make a big difference in our mood.
And I think the other piece with that diagram, I'm just going to flip back to that for a second. The other piece with this diagram is that a lot of times why we're missing that moment of being in the present is because we're dwelling on what has happened in the past and things that have gone on, and trying to sort of recreate or go over or mull over mistakes or problems or challenges that have gone on, and we can't do anything about that. It has come and it has gone, and yes, maybe we have had lessons that we've learned or gathered information from those times in our life, but we can't go back and we can't recreate it. We can't do anything about it. We can't change those timelines in our life. And equally on the other side, we can't spend the rest of our lives anticipating and living in that sort of like, what's coming, what's going to happen, what if this happens, what if that happens, and we're wasting a lot of energy just anticipating and wondering what's going to happen and how should I prepare and what should we do. And we're living too far advanced in the future. And if we're too far in either camp on either side, that really contributes to us not being able to enjoy those, sort of in the moment opportunities to be mindful and be aware of our spaces around us. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a really cute little description of exactly what you just said, right?
Yep. Love this, and that is a fantastic website to go to, by the way.
So
I
we're
love
so
this
busy watching
governing
out
head.
for what's just ahead of us that we don't take time to enjoy where we are. Yeah, and that's mindfulness, right? Hmm.
Yeah. Especially when we have anxious, children, or if we have anxiety, it's a lot of that constantly, worrying and wondering and what's coming and what's going to be happening and where are we going and who's doing what. There's so much of that that we really miss those golden moments. So we have four pretty simple steps to mindfulness. It's not a complicated process. It's really about just sort of taking your foot off the gas a little bit, starting to become aware and noticing your surroundings. Think about all of your senses, right? So, sight, sound, taste. I'm gonna end up tripping over my tongue when I say them. But think about all of your senses. Um, Check in, right? So check in where you are, right? So become very aware of sort of that body awareness, where you are in your sort of space. Become aware of your breath. Notice that sort of rise and fall. Don't force the breath. I don't want you to force your breath. Just notice that gentle rise and fall. Just become aware of it. And be aware of sort of the body and how the body is feeling, and are you comfortable in your space? Are you comfortable in your seat, or if you're standing or laying down, wherever you are, just sort of become aware of sort of, like sort of, are you comfortable in your own skin, right? And then just ground with the earth. And when we talk about grounding with the earth, it's not again, it's not a complicated thing. It's just about, can I come in contact or in touch with something solid? Can I take my shoes and socks off? Can I place my feet onto the ground? And the ground doesn't have to be outside. The ground can be the floor in your home. Can I place the, sort of my forearms like onto the solid part of a chair? Can I run my hands underwater, right? Can I even just drink a glass of water can help you to feel sort of grounded and connected. Some people like to grab some kind of a lotion and just kind of rub that on their hands or their feet. But anything that you can do that makes you feel sort of connected and sort of to anything that's sort of solid. Okay? And that's basically that sort of, those are those steps to mindfulness. That's how we introduce it.
So what Sue was talking about is also a strategy for grounding, and grounding kind of is helping you come back to yourself when we're in crisis. And I'll bring out my little sparkle jar. We're
I
here,
love the
and
sparkle jar.
this is our emotion. This is how we're feeling. And we've got all this stuff going on. Going back to that image of being mindful, or is your mind full of things? And when we're in that state, and we can do this with our children as well, and you can do this in crisis, to kind of help them calm down a little bit. Because in those moments when we are in crisis, we tend to want to talk to people, talk it out. What's the matter? We get in their space. This is something your child can do on your own. This is something you can do on your own. You can have a code word or a code signal to be like, how can we go through this? We can start with our 5 things we can see. So right now, you can look around and look for 5 things you can see in the room around you. You can do this on a walk. You can do this at the park. You can do this at a party. It doesn't matter. You can do it anywhere while your child is writing a test and feeling really stressed out, or you are anticipating that your child dropping them off to school in September is not going to be great. And you can kind of do these things before you walk out that door. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel. So can you feel the back? Your back against your chair, a watch on your wrist. Can you feel the sun on your face? And then 3 things you can hear. So I can, hear the air conditioner. Maybe you can hear birds outside, that kind of thing. And 3 things you can smell. This is a little bit harder. If you're outside, it can be a little easier. And 1 thing you can taste. Again, this one, maybe if you don't have water or something with you, you wouldn't do. But again, it's just bringing you back to your center and turning the volume down on the stress and on the chaos and just coming back. And this is very simple. There's no judgment. It's not over talking. And this is something that you can teach your children to do as well.
So when we talk about mindfulness and we think, so how do we bring this into our parenting, right? Because mindful parenting is really about just becoming more aware of sort of what's happening so that you don't really get sort of hijacked, right, by your emotions when you're parenting, right? So how do we do this and how do we incorporate this into our day? It's really about starting to give your full attention to your kids, right? Listen to them, hear what they have to say. Any of you that may have attended some of our other workshops, we talk a lot about validation. We talk about giving, and having, allowing your kids to be sort of, have that audience with you, and sort of getting down to their level and sharing their experience with them because they have their perception of their lived experience. So you want to be able to give your full attention to them because they're bringing in their own sensory stuff to this, and you want to be able to share that with them and accept your child. And again, without the judgments, right? So we don't want to be critical. We don't want to be throwing any labels out there about why you can't do this, or you just want to stay away from that. Accept them and yourself, right? So no judgments about yourself as a parent, right? You're doing the best you can and you're having a human experience here. So we expect that things are going to be challenging at times and things are going to be difficult at times. So that's okay. And again, don't be judgmental about that. Just accept that this is the way that it is and we're going to look for solutions. And imagine that your child's feelings match your response, right? Or sorry, and match your response to your child's feelings. This is again part of that validation piece, right? Manage your own feelings and your reactions. If you're feeling like you're going to be too reactive, maybe you need to step back, right? Maybe you need to, take a break, take a pause. I used to tell my kids all the time, like when I come home from work, when I was, when we were younger, when we were a younger family. I'm an empty nester now, but I used to say, you know what, mommy needs to take work off and put home on. And they knew that that was their signal that mom needs to take that little break. And I would, wash my face, change my clothes. And that was kind of like my mindful moment for myself where I could sort of step out of my work day and sort of take that energy off and put myself into my mom role, right? So that when I was with them, I wasn't carrying the energy of my workday into my conversations with them. So they weren't going to be poking the bear. I was able to sort of put difficult conversations or work meetings or phone calls or tasks that didn't get, finished or completed. I was able to put those things aside and I could be present with them. And that helped me to manage my own feelings and my own reactions when they talked to me or when they shared difficult things with me that might have sort of stirred me up a little bit. And if I hadn't taken that time, I might have been more reactive. So doing those kinds of practices for yourself are really important. And teaching and showing compassion for yourself and your child. They learn what they live. So again, really important for them to see you do these things. And they will learn by doing and seeing what you do. They'll follow along with you. Do you want to add anything to that, Michelle?
Oh, that was great. Yeah. And again, more ideas on peaceful practices. So misbehavior is your child's way of communicating an unmet need. And that's where that compassion comes in, where we're trying to listen to what their needs are. And sometimes we don't know what their needs are. And just like this is saying, behavior is them trying to tell you something. So they're trying to communicate to you, but when we're feeling frustrated, when we're easily triggered and we're thinking they're being disrespectful, they need to learn a lesson, we can't allow this behavior, we get caught up in that emotion, and that emotion will evoke a behavior in us. And being able to step back and say, what is this behavior? It's happening on a regular basis. What are they trying to communicate to me? What is it that they're trying to say? This is not an easy thing to do. Of course, your children's behaviors can be triggering. They can feel disrespectful. However, try not to take it personal. And when you are taking care of yourself and you're able to do these things, then you're calmer and you're better able to look at a situation, because your sparkly jar is maybe not as active, right? It's a little calmer. So we can see things a different way, because when all those sparkles are all around you, you can't see clearly and it can be really hard. Validate your child's effort. We tend to focus on the end result, and we've missed the fact that they've tried the best that they can. And some children are more work. Some children need more help. Some children need more patience, and that can be really hard for us, especially when we've got other children at home that don't need so much work. But take a look at how far they've come. They may be grumbling off to get ready for bed, but at least they're going to get ready for bed. So focus on that, right? And the fact that they're going, even though they don't want to. Give your child the respect you want them to give to you. Sometimes, the way that we've been brought up can sometimes come out in how we bring our children up today. And there are lots of great things that you can bring forward through generations, but sometimes that dictatorship, that I'm the parent, it's my way, that can be really hard. So the child doesn't feel heard. The child doesn't feel like their thoughts and feelings are respected. So it has to be a give and take as well. And never punish your child for their feelings. It can be really hard. Child has a temper tantrum. Child gets upset. And usually what do they do when they get upset? They act out, right? And then we punish the fact that they're upset. So trying to give them that message that emotion is okay, but this behavior is not okay. And just punishing it doesn't fix anything. So how do we help them with that emotion? Express confidence in their abilities. Let them know you believe in them. Remember, the worse they feel, the worse they behave. So this is for anybody, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you haven't been taking care of yourself, if you're not exercising, eating well, sleeping well, doing things that kind of fill your cup, it's really hard to do well. And it's the same thing for our kids.
So mindfulness in the home, this is where it starts. It really is a very powerful skill, right? And it builds over time. So we're going to end up creating stronger children in terms of their, sort of just their life skills and their ability to sort of bounce back and have that emotional resilience and becoming more aware of their emotions and how they impact themselves and the world around them. Um, it can really be taught from quite a very young age. There's a variety of different skills out there for mindfulness. And it can be as simple as like we did with that little exercise about, things that I see and smell and taste. Um, True mindfulness and sort of trying to sort of sit with yourself can be very challenging for very young children. So you want to kind of guide it a little bit for them when they're quite young. But the implementation of mindfulness practices can be just as simple as going for a walk and being aware of the things that are around you and having young children, like pick up a leaf or pick up a flower or, a stick and then creating something beautiful with it. That can be a mindfulness activity for them as well. Um, how do I sort of pull it into sort of some of those everyday things? Cooking and eating and being mindful about what you eat is so important. There was a really interesting research activity that was done many, many years ago. But they took a family, or a couple of families, I should say, and they went to a restaurant and they had breakfast out. And one family was blindfolded and one family was not. And they had, like, the big breakfast kind of, the bacon, eggs, toast kind of, home fry thing. And the family that was not blindfolded, they ate everything. Everything was gone. The family that was blindfolded did not finish everything. So they ate more to their cues of what their body was actually telling them, right? Because they were more aware of what was happening within their body. So when we talk
Mhm.
about the mindfulness, they actually have a funny little activity when you learn mindfulness and you take like a raisin or you can take like an almond or something, but usually it's a raisin. And you actually put it in your mouth and it's one single raisin. And you just kind of swirly it around in your mouth and you kind of feel it and you feel the texture. And you're not supposed to chew it or bite it or anything as it starts to kind of like fall apart and you feel the textures of it. So you can do that. You could do that kind of an activity with your kids with, some kind of a fruit or piece of a gummy or something that they really like, and just do it as a fun little activity. Just to become aware of food and tastes and textures and the different areas even in their mouth where they sense different things. It could be a fun thing that you could do. Thinking about outside, what's around your home, how do you bring mindfulness around to the different areas outside of your space as well? Even if you have a small space, you can have, like a balcony that you can decorate, you can have mindful areas. And the children will also benefit through sort of increased focus and attention because your areas and your spaces will feel calmer, they'll feel more organized, you'll feel like there's just less tension. The anxiety and the stress, it's not going to disappear, it's not going to go away, but you'll feel like you're able to cope and manage. The kids will feel like they're able to cope and manage. People will be able to find things that they're looking for. So that's being mindful about your home, your space, your awareness, what's happening with you. When you're having a shower, be mindful of the water falling on you. When the kids are in the bathtub, allow them that moment to, take the cloth and just, run the water over top of them, right? Have some nice soft music. Make bath time a fun time. Sometimes bath times can be stressful for kids. Talk about how can we make bath time fun and relaxing, right? So how do we bring those moments in to be joyful, right? That's what we want to do.
Mhm. You gave a lot of great ideas. I think it's finding those things that you enjoy. Jigsaws for me would not be mindful. Jigsaws would cause me more stress. But
Not me either.
no. Uh, but mazes and being still, doing like the little raisin thing. I've heard of doing that with a piece of chocolate and then they really want to bite down on it. How does it feel not to bite down? I think it's harder. I think it's easier with a raisin not to bite down, but when it's chocolate, it's a little bit harder. So they're learning
Chocolate.
that resistance. Want to, right? Arts and crafts. I mean, some children love to do that stuff, nature walks, and when you're doing those things to pay attention. I remember when my kids were young, and they're not so young anymore, but they would go on walks, and like Sue said, they would pick up a leaf, and then they'd want to pick up another leaf, and then they'd want to pick up another leaf, or another rock. It was
The
just those
bag
little
home.
things that, yeah, like, but it's just a wonder to them, right? To us, we think it's a dead leaf or it's just another rock. Like, it's not even a fancy rock, it's just a rock off the ground. But this
Yeah.
is something that they're paying attention. So we want to kind of go back to those little things, to be aware, to have a little more fun and slow down when you go on your nature walks. Be aware of what's around you instead of like, let's just go steam ahead, put on our music, and, you know, pay attention to what's around you. Mindful meditation and breathing, mindful eating, where you actually put the fork down, you can close your eyes, you can, taste all the tastes and feel all the textures. And mazes and coloring and things like that. Mandalas, those coloring sheets that you can download for free. I mean, they're so simple, and you can find finger labyrinths. They actually have labyrinths. I think there's one in Hamilton that you can walk.
Oh,
So it's
there's a
not meant to be a maze, it's not meant to be scary, it's not meant to be frustrating, but it's supposed to be mindful. And then when you go around it, then you can, with your fingers, when you go around the bend, you take your breaths. You can do that with your hand, right? When you take a breath, each time you go in and out. And it's just teaching them how to take those big diaphragmatic breaths and slow down for a minute. It's simple things, but done on a regular basis. It becomes a natural piece, and it helps lower your stress levels, because writing a gratitude journal, having a mindful practice, we think, how is that going to take things away? It doesn't necessarily take it away, but our stress levels are lower. So when things do come up, we don't feel as stressed, right?
So I talked a little bit about the mindful eating cycle, right? And this is just another way of sort of putting it out there for you to see, like what, why do I eat? When do I eat? What, how, how much, where. So it's just about thinking about that, because I know eating comes up for a lot of people, and there we have a lot of parents that often ask as well about eating issues for kids. Some kids don't like to eat, some kids want to eat too much or too often. So eating can be a big issue, and especially if we're trying to rush, like to get places, a lot of times we rush and really don't enjoy our food. So timing, thinking about timing can be a big factor when we're thinking about mindfulness. I mean, I'm not saying that we all have to sit and, eat our meals like we would with the raisin sort of situation. But if we're actually sort of like inhaling all our food to the point where, have I actually really even tasted what, what was in front of me or what was on my plate? That's a problem, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
not
or
really
eating and
enjoying the flavor.
driving. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
or
when we're
eating and
eating and driving
driving.
TV and
Yeah, it's
eating.
just
Yeah.
just not good. Or that mindfulness, like sitting in front of the TV and I'm eating the bag of chips, or, at the movie theater.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, the movie theater's like, you know, let's just not talk about the popcorn situation. But it really is that mindful situation where we lose track of, would I really eat all that too, right? And it's not.
Mhm.
It's just not a great
Or
situation.
am I
So
enjoying it?
become more
Or
aware.
am I enjoying it? Right? Like
Am I
I
really
didn't even
enjoying
taste
it?
it. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's
And
just
I
say,
was just,
right? Mom cooks a
yeah.
really nice dinner, right? Or my
Yeah.
partner cooks a really nice dinner. And then it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did I really enjoy it or didn't
Yeah.
I enjoy it? And the kids are like, well,
That's
I don't
right.
know. I don't
Exactly.
know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
On the
becoming more
weekend,
aware, becoming mindful.
yes.
I
On,
think it's a big deal.
um,
Food is a big deal.
I was saying,
Takes up
I was saying to Sue on the weekend that I had had some ice cream and it was so hot outside that the ice cream was melting so quick and I had to eat it so fast. I'm like, I didn't enjoy it at all because I had to eat it
yeah.
so fast. I didn't get to savor it. So it was running down my hand, so when we're doing that on a regular basis, let's slow down a little
So
bit. Let's enjoy
true.
our meal. And yeah, and this is a good way to do it.
Not the best ice cream, and you had really good ice cream.
I did have really good ice cream, but
You
I
did have
didn't
really
really
good
enjoy
ice
it.
cream. I love this quote. When little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it becomes our job to share our calm, not to join their chaos. Right? And I really want you to really think about what that says, right? And again, when little people are overwhelmed by big emotions, it's our job to share our calm, not to join
Mhm.
their chaos. Okay? So it's our job as caregivers and as parents and as loved ones, when our little ones are feeling that the world is too big, their glitter jar is all shook up, right? Their world is chaotic. We need to help them, right? We need to be the ones in control. We need to be the ones that are able to share a sense of calm and support, right? We need to be those ports in the storm, not the ones that are going to jump in and be all riled up with them, right? We need to be that sense of calm, right? And be able to help them to stabilize that sense of chaos. I love that quote.
Exactly. And I think giving them some visuals and reminders and doing this with your child, these are great to print off, of course, but does it fit for what your child needs? So making sure that it's something that they do want to do, that they have practice doing, that we put into practice. And we can create our own. What does that look like for them? What will help them when they are upset? You can even break it down with each emotion. So when I'm feeling angry, what do I need? When I'm feeling sad, what do I need? So not just upset, because what does upset mean? So for each emotion, you may want to even break it down like that and add a visual, or when your kids are older, have a checklist or a thermometer or something like that.
And I think, like creating a calm down space. I mean, I talked a little bit about this earlier about just thinking about your space, but having a really sort of segmented off space for your child to go, and maybe you create one for yourself, which I think is a fantastic idea. I know I have my own space, and I know Michelle does too. But I mean, I think having an area that's sort of designated and having them be part of that process of creating that space is a beautiful thing, right? It becomes their own little sort of getaway. It's their place to go to. It's their place to have to promote that sense of calm and sort of peace and 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 mindfulness, right? Where they can just sort of be with themselves. And they can have whatever. I mean, we have lots of different little examples down here on the bottom, sand and pasta and some blankets, and you can have different fabric pieces of different textures or books, or they could create their own glitter jars, whatever is resonating with your child, right? They need to contribute to putting the things in that space that are meaningful to them, that promote that sense of calmness, that promote that sense of feeling centered and grounded, right? So creating a little space somewhere, having a little getaway, Lots of people have these little tent spaces and stuff that they use now. It doesn't have to be that formal. It could just be a small area with a little cushion and a pillow, wherever it is that you can find a space. And it's a great idea. And again, if they see you use an area and you have, like, say, a special chair and a little table where you have a little niche sort of for yourself, and they see you go to your space to maybe do some adult coloring or read a book or, maybe write in your journal, they'll go to their space, right? Again, they will do what they see you do. So create that pattern and they will follow.
Okay. So I like this poem. I give myself permission to rest, to heal, to be me, to say no, to change, to love myself, to ask for help, to make mistakes, to pursue my dreams, to live, play, laugh, and dream. And some of that may bring joy to you to think about. Other things may bring up anxiety, or that I don't think I can make that happen. And it is a process for some people, but giving yourself permission to do these things may be your first step. That you are human, you have the right to take care of yourself. And when you're giving and giving constantly, it's really hard to be everything for everybody. And that's when resentment and fatigue and all those emotions build up, because eventually our heads do pop off, right? So, can you give yourself permission today?
Want to talk about the gratitude jar?
Yeah, so I mentioned that I write a gratitude journal every morning, and it would be a really cool thing for your kids to do or for you to do. And if they're not into writing their own journal, it could be a family thing. They can do things separately, but having a gratitude jar, again, focuses on those little things, and you can open them up at the end of the month. You can hold on to them and create a journal. So nice to open those things up and be like, I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for that yummy meal. I'm grateful that we were able to go on a nature walk together. So you know what's important to your kids, you know what they're grateful for. And I, for one, will tell people when they made it into my gratitude journal, right? When I've said, you know what, I'm grateful that you made dinner. I'm grateful that we had that wonderful time together, because those are the things that fill me up. Those are the things that make me feel good. And when you're focusing on the positive, um, then our brain, you can train our brain to do that. Our brain naturally goes to the negative, what we don't have, what we should have done better. And this kind of brings it back to the positive. Is the world always positive? Are things always good? Absolutely not. But when we focus on all the negativity, it's really tough to shift. So trying to slowly shift to the positive, this is a great way to do it and a fun way to bring the family together. And you can do this at all ages, something that maybe you do before dinner. Maybe you just do it 2 or 3 times a week, once a week, and then you can open them up at the end of the month. Here are some prompts to go along with it. Yeah.
So lots of benefits, right? We talked about some of the pieces that goes, for mindfulness, and these are some of the health benefits, right? So, less stress, worry less, we smile more because we feel better, we feel more energized, right? We may eat better, sleep better. I think what's important here too is we may listen better, we hear things more clearly, we think better, we're more focused. Our kids may learn better, right? Because they're more open, more receptive. They're not feeling so anxious or chaotic, right? So lots and lots of benefits to practicing mindfulness. So, give it a try, right? And these are gradual changes that are going to happen that you have to start to integrate over time. Don't feel like it's something that it's like, oh, I have to like turn my household upside down. Ease into it, make yourself feel comfortable. Just pick a couple of things and say, you know what, I'm just going to try this out. I'm going to check into maybe some apps, or I'm going to put some music, or maybe we're going to create that space, or we're going to try and maybe put in like a family walk or something after dinner. Just try something different. Try and put something new into your routine and just see how it goes. And this is just some more about some of the benefits.
So we all have it in us. We just have to put it into practice, and it's just one step at a time, like Sue said. And all these things will be put in the resource page for you. Just some more things
Lots
to
of,
look up and
lots of
use.
resources, lots of things for you to check out. Love this. Sky above, earth below, peace within. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Sue and Michelle, and thank you for everyone for joining tonight's session. Like Sue and Michelle mentioned, today's session was recorded, so I will send out the recording tomorrow with all the resources that they have shared in the last few slides there. And I will also tag mindfulness sessions for youth as well, because those have been presented in the past for your space, so I will link those in there if any of your children or teen would be interested in practicing mindfulness with you. Thank you again, Sue and Michelle, for joining. If any
You're
of you have any
welcome.
questions, feel free to use the chat there. If not, thank you so much for joining, and I will see you for the next session.